Hi, I'm Marcus Hutzel, and this is the Neewer Advanced 2.4G 480 LED Video Light. And I just purchased it for my home studio, so I wanted to do a video about it to maybe help you out if you're looking to pick it up. It's very similar to the Neewer 660 models, which are cheap, widely available, and generally pretty good lights. The 480 light has fewer LEDs than the 660, but has some additional features that the standard 660 doesn't give you. So is it any good? Well, yes, I think it's great, and I think it's perfect for a small to medium YouTube studio or home office setup. But I do recommend adding a softbox, and I should note that I am using the dfuse circular softbox right now, and will be using it for most of this video, but I will show you examples of how it looks without a softbox as well a bit later. Let's run down the features of this light real quick. This is the Neewer Advanced 2.4G 480 Video Light Panel. It costs about $75. It's bi-color. It has dual mounting options, vertical or horizontal. It has dual power options, AC wall power or Sony MPF batteries. It comes with barn doors for shaping the light. It comes with a removable diffuser panel. It comes with a remote. It comes with a soft case for transport or storage. And it's silent since it has no fans. It's 2.4G because the remote that comes with it operates in the 2.4 GHz wireless frequency spectrum. The model number is 480 because it has 480 LED lights, 240 tungsten LEDs, and 240 white LEDs. If you're only going to get one of these lights as a key light, you should probably get a softbox or possibly just get two lights, one as a key and one as a fill. More on that a bit later, but again, I am currently using the dfuse softbox with my Neewer 480. So getting the light, a light stand, and the softbox will run you around $150. So the features that I was looking for in a light, this light met, and for me those features were, it's inexpensive, although I didn't want a cheap light. It's silent, it's bi-color, it has a dedicated remote control, it has different mounting options so I can get it into the right position, and it's more color accurate than my previous really cheap softbox which had a lot of green in the daylight setting. And again, it's very similar to the popular and also inexpensive Neewer 660 models, but the 480 just has fewer LEDs and therefore not as bright as the 660. But for my home office, I don't need anywhere near the maximum brightness of the 660 or the 480. So what, in my opinion, are some of the pros of this light? Well, number one, again, it's only $75, but that doesn't come with a light stand, so keep that in mind. Number two, it's bi-color and has several steps of color in between the coldest and the warmest. It goes from 3200 Kelvin up to 5600 Kelvin. And of course, having a bi-color light just gives you more options to match the light in the room. Let's say I have the windows open during the day and I want to be on a virtual call. I can easily switch this light over to a cooler color temperature to match the daylight coming into the windows. Color temperature options are good. Number three, the mounting point has two mounting options, vertical or horizontal. Much better than the older standard Neewer 660 because with the dual mount on this light, you can actually use the barn doors more effectively and you can tilt it down. With a lot of the other lights, if you only have a single vertical mount, the barn doors actually keep you from being able to tilt the light down very much. So you almost have to use a straight-on angle on some of those other lights with only a vertical mount to light the talent. That's a large oversight in my opinion because most of the time we want our lights slightly above the talent. But with the 480 model and using the horizontal mount, you can lift the light up and actually tilt it down properly to get more of that Rembrandt style lighting. Number four, it can be powered by AC wall power or Sony MPF batteries, but it does not come with those batteries. But the good news is that you can get the same power or brightness out of this light whether it's on AC or battery power. And you can use just a single battery. You do not have to have two batteries installed for the light to work. I got about 3 hours out of two Sony MPF 750 batteries at 4000 Kelvin at 100%, but the odd thing is I only got about an hour out of two MPF 550 batteries, and with the 550 batteries, the light started to flicker after about 50 to 55 minutes, and this could have been due to my cheap no-name MPF 550 batteries, but I got the same flickering results multiple times, and it's a bit of a disappointment since MPF 550s are what I mainly own, but it's just something to test and keep in mind. Number five, the barn doors are great and they allow you to cut the light off of surfaces that you don't want it to hit, and they are removable. And I actually have a Neewer 660 up there hitting this kind of back and giving me this side light on my face, and I like the barn doors on that model because I just don't want that light spilling anywhere else in the room, lighting up the room. I want it just hitting my face. The 480 has the same barn doors and can shape the light if you need. And it's the barn doors that allow you to attach these third-party softboxes to this light as well. You actually have to use the barn doors to properly attach something like the dfuse softbox. Number 6, I think I've said this a few times, it comes with a physical remote. And this is something I really wanted, a dedicated remote, because I do not want to have to load up an app on my phone just to control my light. Sometimes that might be helpful, but not when I need to make quick changes. There's no connecting to a separate Wi-Fi network or Bluetooth network, then opening an app. I just grab the remote and click, click, done. And with my old cheap softbox, if I wanted to change the color temperature, I'd have to get up and feel around the back of the light for the switch and change the color from tungsten to daylight. And since my desk setup is quite small and my light is in a corner, it was just cumbersome to change my old light. But with the remote, you can change this light without having to get up or move. And the light can be set to one of 10 different channels, and you can set the remote to that channel to control that light, or change the channel on the remote to control a different light on a different channel. And if you were to have several 480 models in the same physical space that are close enough together, you could take one remote, set the remote to group 88, and that will control every 480 light in the space, regardless of what group that light is set to. Number 7, it's passively cooled, which means it doesn't have any fans, so it's silent, and it's great for small spaces. And I would have had a hard time fitting a larger softbox in this little corner behind my desk. Number 8, it has a digital screen on the back as well as on the remote, which tells you exactly what your settings are. Some of the newer 660s, like the one I have for my backlight, don't have a screen, so on those models, it's almost impossible to get back to the exact settings if you change them, because they're just 2 dials with no hard stops or digital readouts of your levels. The 480 also has 2 dials, but they're directly related to the readout on the screen, and they just keep turning in either direction without hard stops because they're simply digitally controlling the settings, which makes it obviously very easy to repeat your settings and get back to exactly where you were. Number 9, the light remembers its settings when you disconnect it from AC power and power it back on. This was one of the most important features for me, because I actually have my key light running into a separate power cable that I installed under my desk that has an inline switch in it, so I can quickly turn the light off and on. This switch simply kills the power to the actual power brick for the light, and I did this so that I could turn the light on and off without having to move from my chair. I could just reach down here, flick a switch, and it's off. And when I turn off the power using my custom switch, it's just as if I had unplugged the power from the wall. Because when I'm done for the day, either shooting a video or having a virtual call, I want to turn the light completely off and kill the power to it because number 1, I just don't want to waste any sort of electricity it may be pulling. And number 2, I don't want to have to dim the light down using the remote to 0 because that's the only way to really turn it off with the remote, because that changes the settings on the light, obviously from whatever percentage I was at down to 0. And if I forget what I was previously set at and I need to go back and re-record a portion of a video, I'm going to have to either write it down or remember. And with my physical switch, I don't have to do that. I just turn it off and on. Easy. And it's great that the 480 comes back on to the exact same settings when you kill the power to it completely and then turn it back on. My custom switch makes it easy to just turn the light off and on without having to move from this position. So those are some of the pros for me, and here, in my opinion, are some of the cons. I think that this light really needs a softbox if you choose only to get a single light. And that's just my opinion, of course. The light does come with a diffuser panel, and it does an okay job at making the light softer than without it, but most of the time, faces are just going to look a lot better with a softer source, and adding some sort of additional diffusion material will help this light be softer. Like specifically having a softer shadow on this side of my face from my nose or anyone's nose, or reducing the amount of highlights that you see that can get really hot on people's foreheads or on their cheeks. Adding some sort of diffusion material will help soften those features. And using this dfuse circular softbox gives me enough diffusion for what I need. And if needed, the built-in diffuser panel is removable. Number 2, like most LED panels of this type from Neewer and other companies, the beam angle is fairly narrow, so even adding a softbox, it doesn't quite fill up the full circle of diffusion material in those softboxes because the beam angle just doesn't spread far enough. And typically with more professional lights and softboxes, you would want to fill up that full circle or rectangle of diffusion as evenly as possible. So this light, and many like it, having a more narrow beam, again, doesn't quite fill that diffusion disk as much as it could, which does lead to a slightly less soft light source. And I thought this would be more of an issue, but honestly, it's working quite well for me. And I think it's soft enough adding a simple softbox like the dfuse model. Here's a little quirk that they don't tell you, but it's only dimmable in 10% increments. So you can't set it to 28% if that's truly the amount of light you need. You only get 20% or 30%, nothing in between. So it's not really 0 to 100, more like 1 to 10. And that's the finest amount of control you can get with either the remote or the panel on the back, 10 steps of brightness. So you'll have to make any finer adjustments for exposure with your camera settings like your ISO, your aperture, or your shutter speed. But for what I do here at my desk, it works just fine. But I think it's a bit of a disappointment that it really only has 10 brightness settings. Again, I was looking for a budget light that I could use to fit in a small space. And this light with the dfuse softbox fits perfectly where I need it to fit. But as promised, and for reference, here are some examples of the light with and without the dfuse softbox. With the dfuse softbox. So here we are without the dfuse softbox. You can see the light's a little more harsh. It's also brighter because the softbox eats up some of that brightness. So I'm going to take this and dim it down one increment, which is 10%, but it's only one click down. So now we're at relatively the same brightness level, but now you can see the difference in shadows on my face without the softbox. And I should note this is with the diffuser panel still installed in the light as it comes. And now just for an example, I went ahead and dimmed it down another notch to get closer to the original brightness value with the softbox. According to my Atmos Shinobi, which I'm using for exposure here, dimming it down twice without the softbox is close to the same brightness level on my face. So here's that. This is with the light at 10%. So here I think we see the disadvantage of not having finer to control other than 10% up to 20%. Somewhere around 15% would have been more equal to having the softbox on or not. This is where you would have to make adjustments to your camera to compensate for the lack of control with the light itself. And here's the same levels side by side. Personally, I think the top left view with the softbox looks the most pleasing. It does not come with a stand. For me, that was fine because I already have multiple light stands. But it doesn't come with a stand, so keep that in mind as it will add cost to buy a stand. But you can pick up a cheap stand on Amazon for around $20. It does have an external power supply, and the cable is not long enough to reach the ground. So the power brick will be hanging in midair and can put too much pressure on the power connector on the back of the light. So just keep that in mind. I always wrap the cable around the stand or tape it to it to give it some sort of strain relief so that the power plug doesn't put too much pressure on the socket on the back of the light. 3200 Kelvin is the only color temperature that uses just the tungsten LEDs. Once you hit 3300 Kelvin, the white LEDs come on and they start increasing in intensity from 3300 Kelvin to 5500 Kelvin. Once you get to 5600 Kelvin, the tungsten LEDs turn off completely and then you just get the white LEDs. Every value in between 3300 and 5500 uses some combination of both the tungsten and the white LEDs. And since the light jumps up or down in those 10% increments, the jump from when the white LEDs are off to when they're on is a bit abrupt. So it's not a terribly smooth transition between 3200 to 3300 Kelvin or between 5500 to 5600 Kelvin. So that's it. Overall, this light has been perfect for my fairly small home office for both my YouTube videos and my virtual calls. It's compact, it's silent, has a remote control, it holds its last settings after turning off the power and back on again, and it's just the right light for my space, which again is pretty cramped. It's not as bright as the 660, but I only ever really have this light at a maximum of about 40%. Again, the base cost of about $75 does not include a light stand nor a softbox. I've been really happy with this light, so hopefully some of this information has been helpful for you. That's it. Good luck and have fun.